What up, Cavs Nation? I'm your host, Ethan Sands, and I'm back with another episode of the Wine and Gold Talk podcast. I'm joined by your favorite beat reporter, Chris Fedor. What up, Chris?
Ethan, how's it going, man?
I am living life and gearing up for the Final Four in Cleveland. How's living out in LA?
Oh, man, it's great. Are you kidding me? First thing that I did when I arrived here in Los Angeles is I got to my hotel, I put my bag down, and I went straight to In-N-Out Burger.
Oh my God. Okay, guys. So before we get into anything else, we're going to have a fun show today, but I got to start here. Chris, the first time I had In-N-Out, I think it was 2019. And I was hearing all of these things about the special menu, the secret menu, and things like that. And I got like a double double or whatever it's called, and all of those things, and animal fries, animal style, yada yada yada. I was not impressed.
You suck. Are you kidding me? Jesus Christ.
So it was very funny for me when I
Oh,
got a message on Twitter for obviously they come at me for not for my Cavs takes, but for the podcast and what we can talk about, and not asking me anything, but asking me to ask you what you went to eat when you got to LA. So seeing In and Out pop up on your timeline was very funny to me, but also the fact that I did not think the hype was real when it came
why?
to In and Out.
Why not?
Okay, all right. I'm gonna be mean. I'm just gonna be straightforward because this is exactly what I thought when I got it. I thought it was an overhyped version of a Big Mac. To be very fair.
You're out of your mind. It does not taste like a Big Mac. The quality of it is very, very different than a Big Mac. A Big Mac has a stupid bun in the middle of it, breaking up the meat and the cheese. It has different sauce. Get out of here. No, no, no.
That was my immediate reaction when I've been into it because everybody, like, my mom was so mad at me when we got to LA. She said, "We can go anywhere you want. It's your first time in LA, 2019, 19-year-old Ethan." And I was like, "In and Out." And she was like, "You're out of your mind," just like you're saying now, but for very different reasons. And I went and I had the burger and I was like, "This is it? This is what
Get
people
out
have
of
been raving
here.
about?" I'm so serious.
Toasted golden bun, fresh meat, perfect combination of meat and cheese and whatever else you want to put on your burger. For me, it was just ketchup. And the fries are delicious. They're so unique. They're not like any other fries that you can have at a fast food spot. They're different than McDonald's. They're different than Wendy's. They're different than Chick fil A. They're different than Five Guys. They are their own and they are delicious and they are fresh. What is wrong with you? I feel bad for your taste buds. I am no longer, based on this conversation, Ethan, I am no longer going to take any food advice from you for the rest of the time that we work together because you just ruined it.
That's crazy. One, because I'm definitely known as the person with good food recommendations in my friend groups. And
Not with
two,
this steak. Nope.
I'm
Mm-mm.
telling you, it's overhyped, man. But I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna make you even more mad because this is something else that I get hate for in my friend groups. But I don't think ketchup is good. It doesn't add nothing. I will have it on my burgers and on my hot dogs, but people who use it as like a dipping sauce, like use
For
ranch or
fries,
barbecue sauce. No, ranch or barbecue sauce. Why are you using ketchup?
you dip your fries in ranch and barbecue sauce?
Yes. What? It's delicious.
Oh my God. What is wrong with you?
I mean, a lot of things, but nothing with my taste buds.
You get 2 things of ketchup and you dip the fries in ketchup. It's delicious.
I'm getting nauseous just thinking about it. That's
The
not
only
good.
time I'll dip my fries in barbecue sauce is if it's Chick-fil-A barbecue sauce, and it's those kinds of fries.
You get barbecue sauce from Chick-fil-A? You don't
Yes, of
get
course.
Polynesian sauce or like Chick-fil-A
No.
sauce?
No, I get
Polynesian
barbecue
sauce is the
sauce.
best sauce that you can get at Chick-fil-A.
Is that the stuff that they sell at stores nowadays?
Yeah, that and Chick-fil-A sauce, but Polynesian sauce is the stuff.
And the reason why I use the barbecue sauce at Chick-fil-A is because the fries are big enough that the barbecue sauce is not going to overwhelm the taste of the fries. If you get these dinky shoestring fries and you dip them in barbecue sauce and like half of your french fry is smothered in barbecue sauce. All you taste is barbecue. You don't taste any of the fry. So you have to be really, really careful with the ratio of fried to dipping sauce. You've got so much to learn, Ethan. You need to hang around me more, and I can teach you all of my ways.
You're not gonna be able to change my mind because
That's
ra-
unfortunate for you.
I mean, the food that I have indulged in my lifetime, and like my take about In and Out stems from years ago before I even got to travel around the world. So this is surprising to me, but I feel like if you've only had it once or whatever, maybe that's a reason for you hyping it up. But I know you've had it more than once, so I'm gonna have to take your take as it is. But what we can conclude from this conversation is ranch and barbecue sauce over ketchup for dipping,
Oh,
and In and Out is overrated.
I don't even know what to say. It's like saying Nikola Jokic is overrated.
Oh my god, that's a crazy
It's
comparison.
not. It's not. It's the best fast food on the planet,
So,
hands
best
down.
fast food on the planet?
Quality of the burger,
Wow.
quality of the fries. You're out your mind. And it's not
Chris.
just a situation, Ethan. I'm telling you this right now. It's not just a situation where it's similar to the McDonald's Shamrock Shake. You love that McDonald's Shamrock Shake so much because it only comes around once a year. So you miss it for the other 11 months and you're craving it when March rolls around. That's not the situation with In N Out Burger for me. Like a lot of people would say, well, you live in Ohio, you live in Cleveland, you don't get In N Out, so it's a little bit different for you. No, 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 no. It's not. It's just the quality of the burger, the quality of the fries, the meal itself, perfect amount of filling in the burger. And it's not just if I lived in Los Angeles, if I lived in Phoenix, if I lived in anywhere where there was an In and Out, I would still have this take. I'm telling you right now, I'm not being swayed by the fact that I only get it so many times a year. It's just how good it is. I mean, I scarfed that thing down. Oof.
I'm currently booking a flight to Los Angeles to go retake this because of your take being so strong.
Maybe you got it on a bad day, or maybe your taste buds suck. It's one of those two.
Well, we know my taste buds don't suck because the food that I made for you, you liked. So
One thing.
one thing. Okay, fair enough. But we're gonna have fun on today's podcast. We were gonna talk about Batman because we keep talking about that. I'm very tempted to just shift this to a whole food podcast.
Let's do it. We can always talk food.
Oh my goodness.
It's one of my favorite things in the world.
You said In N Out is a top fast food restaurant in the world.
Yeah,
In the
what's better?
world.
Yeah, what's better in terms of fast food? I'm not talking about sit down restaurants. I'm talking about fast food. What's
No,
better?
I hear you. And if we're talking about like the burger and the fries,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Five Guys because you cannot get the amount of volume of fries and the level of seasoning on those anywhere else. One, two, you can also still get a double patty at Five Guys. And yes, I know the price is outrageous, but it's still a good burger and you can dress it up however you like, which is what I like because you can make it however you want. You cannot have a bad burger at Five Guys because you made the burger how you want it.
First of all, yes, you can because they make the burger for you and they could screw up cooking it. That's number one. Number two, I like Five Guys, so I'm not going to say anything bad about Five Guys. It is one of my go tos. I do think it's a quality burger. I do like the quantity that you get with the meal. In terms of quality, though, in terms of taste, it is not on the level of In N Out Burger. There is a gap, a significant gap. It's basically the Boston Celtics are In N Out Burger and then there's a gap between the Celtics and everybody else in the Eastern Conference. That's what it is with In and Out Burger. They are the Celtics, then there's a big gap, and then we can start having the conversation about Five Guys. But I can't really disrespect Five Guys that much because I do think it is a quality burger and I do enjoy my meals from there. But if I had the choice, I'm not taking that over In and Out because my taste buds, they know better.
They know better. You're funny today, Chris. This is this is funny. So, have you had
I
Whataburger
also
before?
think I've had Whataburger. It does not compare to In-N-Out. It's not nearly as good. The bun is soggy. The meat is not as quality or fresh, and the fries are McDonald's fries basically. So no. Don't even bring Whataburger to me. Mm-mm.
I think Whataburger has the flavorfulness in their like sauces and things. Like I usually would get like the sweet and spicy burger and add jalapenos to it.
So there you go. That's how you know it's a bad one.
Why does that make it a bad one?
Because you have to dress it up and you have to mask different flavors and add different flavors to it. It's as if you're going to a restaurant, a steakhouse, and you order a filet. That stands on its own. You don't need to get A1 with that. You don't need to get 57 sauce. You don't need to get demi. You don't need to get anything. Red wine reduction. The filet, the quality of the filet, if you go to the right steakhouse, it's going to stand on its own. You all of a sudden trying to enhance your burger just to make it taste good or taste better, that tells you all you need to know. I don't have to do anything with In and Out Burger.
I want to enhance my burger because I want it to taste how I want it to. Like I want the extra crunch from the jalapenos. I want the extra crunch from the onions, the raw onions or the grilled onions, depending on the day. Like I don't think that has to do with the flavor. I think it has to do with the profile of the burger and what you want the burger to taste like on any given day.
I'm getting a sense here, Ethan, that when it comes to these food options for you, you seem to be more about quantity than quality. Do I have that right?
No, I don't think it has anything to do with quantity. I think it's just like I know what I like. I feel like I have a go-to order almost anywhere I'm gonna go because I know exactly what works for me and what works for my taste buds and what I can indulge in and still enjoy. I definitely think it's quality because I enjoy it. Maybe it's just not to the standard of what other people like.
Well, the first thing that you said when you defended Five Guys, which again, I'm not going to say anything bad about Five Guys. The first thing that you said was how many fries you get.
I mean, that's part of the experience. You go to Five Guys, it doesn't matter what you get. The bag gonna be greasy and the bag gonna have extra fries in it. That's part of the experience of it. And I love that part of it because you know what you're gonna get. But when we talk about the burger, you get the crispy ends, you get the well cooked inside, like you get all of those things. And it doesn't really have to do with the quantity of it. It's just like having those things paired together is what makes the experience at Five Guys better.
Do you also like the peanuts that they give you
I
that
don't
are
eat the
right there
peanuts.
in the middle of the place for
I don't eat the
everybody to
peanuts.
get their grubby hands into?
I don't eat the peanuts. You tried that though. I see what you're trying to do. Trying to throw me to the wolves with the peanuts. I saw what you were doing. I'm not no fool to this game. Come on now. But no, I don't indulge in the peanuts that everybody can put their hands in. I think that's the other thing with Texas Roadhouse, like very off topic that just popped into my brain. They have the barrels full, or they used to before COVID happened. They had the barrels full of peanuts that everybody would go in. You just see the little kids in the front of the line put their grubby hands into the peanut basket. And I'm like, well, I just saw you pick your nose and put your hand in the peanuts. But anyway, I think that's good for the food topic today. We've done 15 minutes on that.
That's not nearly enough time to get into how bad your taste buds are. We need to dig into more of this. I want to know, okay, besides Five Guys, and Whataburger is just a bad pull by you. I
I
mean,
was just asking if you had it. I didn't say it was better than In and Out. I was just asking.
uh, where were you going with that?
I was just saying it's flavorful. I wasn't saying like it was better, but in my opinion it's better. But I wanted to see if you had it because you had been in the West Coast and like I know it's more of a I think it's a southern thing.
Here's the thing that I'll tell you. If there's a cuisine on this earth, if there's a fast food spot on this planet, I have been to it. Because if there's one thing in life that I take more seriously than anything else, Ethan, it is eating. Okay? It is one of my greatest joys in life.
Oh my god. I need to know the workout routine because I don't I remember seeing pictures of you when you first got this job. You don't look no heavier.
Everybody gets so mad about that too because, I'm in these media rooms and I'm eating dinner and everybody sees me going back for seconds and thirds and stuff like that. And they're thinking to themselves, where does this dude put all of this? And how is it possible that he looks the way that he does, more skinny than anything else, I would say. At least that's the way that I've been described by people. And they get so mad at me because when I go to these restaurants, I just I probably go overboard. I probably shouldn't eat as much as I do, especially on game days, because I kind of pay for it a little bit later on because it just sits there and it makes you tired and I don't know, you just don't feel the greatest when you eat as much as I typically eat when I sit down for either lunch or dinner. But it was so funny that you bring that up because Joe Gabriel from Cavs.com was sitting next to me in Utah, and I think the media dining spread this time was sirloin steak and mashed potatoes, and there were some carrots there too and stuff like that.
this
And
he said, "I'm just gonna disregard the vegetables."
yeah, exactly, exactly. I'm a meat and potatoes guy. It's the Irish in me. So I start the meal with a salad, of course,
Oh, so
and
there's
then
the veggies.
yeah, there you go. And everybody's looking at me like, "Is that all you're gonna eat?" And I was like, "Hold on, you're in for a show." So I went up, I got my first plate of sirloin and mashed potatoes, and I threw some carrots on there too. And it was probably like 4 or 5 slices of sirloin, and I ate all that, everything that was on my plate, and then everyone's kinda, like, looking at me because I go walking back up toward the buffet line, and I got a full 'nother plate that looked exactly like the previous one that I had just eaten. And everyone's like, "How is this possible that you look the way that you do and you eat like this? It is not fair." I guess I just have good genes. I don't know. And I do work out and I do walk everywhere I go. Every city that I go to cover an NBA game, I walk to the arena and back for shoot around. Then I walk to lunch and back. Then I walk to the arena and back from games. So I probably get close, not every single day, but a lot of days I probably get close to 10,000 to 15,000 steps.
Yeah, I mean, I do that too with the walk-in, but that food don't stay the way it do with me, the way it do with you, apparently. But I mean, I feel like I have so many bad takes on food because I know
At
what
least
I
you know
like
it.
and what I don't. But I know that the food that I eat tastes good. That's the difference. Like what I'm eating doesn't taste bad. It's just not what everybody else would think. Like I'm not a big steak guy, which is what most people do. No, I'm not one of the people that if I'm gonna have a steak, I'm gonna order it well done. No, I'm not a psycho, but I will like the only times I eat steak is like when I'm going to a fancy dinner and like the obligation is for you to have steak. Or if you're gonna like go to a steakhouse. Like I did a steakhouse for my birthday this past year, and like I was there more for the pork chops and the lamb and all of that
Oh,
than I was for the steak. But I did have the steak and it was good and it was cooked to the way that I wanted it and stuff like that. Like I don't know, do you do medium rare, medium, or what for your
medium,
steak? I yeah,
medium.
medium's where I'm at. Medium's where I'm at. And I've started to do that with burgers more so. It's medium, medium well. But I don't know. I know you're a big steak and potatoes guy. I like potatoes. I like potatoes any way I can get them, mashed, fries, whatever, baked potato, all of those things. But yeah, I know you're a steak guy, so I'm already getting thrown to the wolves. So I thought I might as well just pile on today.
I do get bothered and maybe even triggered by people that go to fancy steakhouses, whichever one you want to throw out there, and they order a burger or they order a salad or they order chicken or they order pasta. That does trigger me a little bit if I'm being honest.
I mean, I think my biggest trigger is like not ordering what the place is for. Like, do you have a friend that's like picky when they go to eat? I mean, Elliot might be like
I'm pretty
this,
picky.
but
I'm pretty picky
well,
if we're
I'm
being
saying
honest.
like, do you go to like a Mexican spot and order chicken tenders and fries? That makes
Oh
me
God, no.
irate.
No, what's the point of going to a Mexican spot if that's what you're gonna
Exactly.
order?
So you're not that picky. Again, you
No.
just know what you like. So like if you were to go if you don't like seafood spots, you're not going to go to a seafood spot and order chicken fingers. Like that's just not what it is. But I have seen on either on social media or in my friend groups going somewhere like to a nice spot, like a nice seafood spot, and they're like, all right, everybody's getting like the shrimp scampi or the surf and turf or whatever, and this mug is over here ordering chicken tenders and fries, and I'm like, dog, I can't even take a picture of the whole room because you looking like this.
Well, here's another conversation since you brought up seafood. I don't touch that stuff. I don't let that anywhere near me. I have a motto in life, Ethan. If it comes from the sea, it does not go in me.
That's horrible because I love seafood.
Of course you do.
Seafood has been my favorite food since I was like 3 years old. My grandparents and my parents used to put like crab legs and things in my hands since I was a child. That has been my like every time I go to Atlanta, that's where my grandparents stay. We always have a seafood boil. Every single time without fail. I could be there for 2 days and we go have a seafood boil if I get to see them. It's insane. I lived in Louisiana for goodness sakes. Like you can't live in Louisiana and not be a fan of seafood and people are gonna look at you funny.
Well, that's a little bit different. I mean, being from Cleveland, Ohio, and that doesn't mean that if you're from Cleveland, you can't like seafood, but it's just, it's not the same kind of way of life if you're from Baltimore and eating crab cakes, or if you're
Right.
from Louisiana and eating, what is it, crawfish? Is that the big one down there?
Crawfish. Yes, sir.
So it's a little bit
Man, now you got me hungry, Chris. We just got done with lunch,
different.
both of us, and I'm hungry again. Man, but I know we've been talking about food for nearly what, 25 minutes now, but I want to talk a little bit about the Cavs so our
Why?
followers and listeners that listen to us for the Cavs don't hate us. And then we're going to switch back because I feel like we have enough time still to talk about something else that we have been holding off on for a good day. I mean, unless there's more food stuff to talk about, I don't have anything off the top of my mind.
Well, there's nothing off the top of my mind either.
Okay, then.
But
So
I'll always talk food.
yeah. So whenever the
Anytime.
time comes, we'll go back to the topic. But just like today, we talked about what the agenda was for today, and food was not on it, and yet
You brought it up. Well, yeah, you brought it up. You asked me where I went.
I was asked to ask you. I didn't think it was going to take 30 minutes, but it did, and I enjoyed it.
I will say though, I have a bunch of other places already on my list. I kind of have it mapped out by where I'm gonna go for lunch, dinner, based on the days that I'm actually here. So I'm very, very excited about it. I love being in LA. I love being in the area where I'm at. I'm in Marina Del Rey, right by the beach. They've got some really good restaurants in this area. So I'm very excited about tonight's dinner, tomorrow's lunch, tomorrow's dinner, the next day lunch. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do it up
So it's gonna be the first question we get to almost every podcast. Is where did Chris go for lunch and dinner? Da-da-da. Like the little theme song.
here. It may one of these days before I get out of here again. It may be one more trip to In and Out so that I can cap it the right way.
This guy. This guy. Okay. All right. So for our Cavs listeners who are gonna be like, why didn't you talk about the Cavs? Well, here it is. We're gonna talk about it just for a little bit because this is supposed to be a fun podcast, and the Cavs aren't too fun right now. But Donovan Mitchell returned to the lineup for the Cavs after sitting out for the game against his former team in Utah on Tuesday. But even though he had a team high 24 points in the loss to the Suns, it felt like he was still adjusting to his knee, Chris. And he admitted that it's a work in progress. But thankfully for the Cavs, there isn't anything structurally wrong with his knee. I know you had a story on this on cleveland.com earlier today, but I'm going to let the fans hear it from you on what the conversation was like and what he got into.
Yeah, it happened last night, Ethan, following the game against Phoenix, and he started off talking about just some of the things that he liked from the team, especially in the second half. And he also made mention that specifically he felt good coming out of the locker room and getting warm quickly in the third quarter. And I thought that was an interesting way to phrase it. And he wasn't asked before then about his knee specifically, but it was on the agenda of something that I wanted to talk to him about because I noticed throughout the course of the game, instead of when he got pulled out of the game, when it was his time to quote unquote rest or sit on the bench, this time he did not sit on the bench. He was riding the exercise bike in the tunnel each time he left the game. And I thought that was interesting. So it was on my list of things to ask Donovan about to begin with. But when he said that, he started to feel a little bit better as the game went on, it kind of led us down the road of, okay, where is your knee at? Where are you in terms of this recovery? How close are you to 100%? Are there doubts that you're going to get to that point before the end of the season? Like those kinds of topics. It wasn't those questions specifically, but it was a general topic of the state of his knee. And I thought he was open and honest about it. I thought he shared some really good information. He talked about a situation that he dealt with a couple of years ago while with the Utah Jazz, where he tore three ligaments in his ankle, and it was toward the end of the regular season, and he missed the final 16 regular season games and the first game of the playoffs for the Jazz. And I bring that up because he felt like, in a way, that going from all of that time off immediately into the playoffs was very difficult on him. He didn't have that recovery period. He didn't have an opportunity to play some late season, regular season games, to shake off the rust, to go through the growing pains, to test out his ankle in a different kind of way. It was all of that stuff had to happen in the second game of the playoffs, where the pressure was increased, where the intensity was high, where the stakes were high. And it was just hard on him because he started to sense that, he continued to be bothered by his ankle as that series went on, and he continued to aggravate it. And I think part of the reason for that is because, he didn't get the previous reps. He didn't get the buildup that he would want to get when it comes to recovering from an injury. And I think part of that is shaping his decision making when it comes to this knee issue. He admitted last night that the thing that his knee needs most is rest. But what his knee also needs is in-game reps so that he can continue to see what he can do, what he can't do, so he can continue to get more and more comfortable playing through the pain, so that he can have an understanding of how much he can push his body in the early going of this return to the floor, and like all those different variables that are attached to this sort of thing. So I think that gives you kind of like the mindset of why Donovan wants to be on the court. And it goes beyond the Cavs record. It goes beyond the state of the team. It goes beyond their inconsistencies. He believes playing games, meaningful games, getting these kinds of reps before the playoffs are going to be beneficial for him. And then in turn, that's going to benefit the Cavs. And it could, emphasis on could, put him in the best position physically and mentally going into the playoffs.
Yeah, Chris, and I mean, we've seen that even from a couple of games back, like he is still adjusting. He's trying to get back into the rhythm of things. And he talked a lot about grace and being able to add that to his repertoire of being able to not compound things that happen and being able to give himself a little bit of a break because obviously it's the NBA. He's not at 100%. He is an all NBA caliber player, but if you're not at 100%, you can't expect yourself to play at that caliber, or you're going to be doing yourself a disservice because you can only play as well as your body is allowing you to. That's like a mind to body connection that a lot of athletes struggle with early on in their careers, and especially when they're getting back from injuries. So it's been interesting to see how he's been able to work through that and use what happened to him in Utah to now. And I think that's a big portion of it. But another thing that I've liked about it is Donovan Mitchell has also talked about Jared Allen and how he has not allowed things to compound for him this season. And I said this in the podcast that came out yesterday, but Jared Allen has been someone who has been looked at and has been criticized continuously because of what happened in the New York Knicks series and how he let things compound and the lights were too bright and things like that. But this season, it's felt like nothing has been too big for him, no matter what has happened from game to game. It's one game at a time. It's let's separate this from that. It's let's make a play. And I think the biggest part when he said was, I don't care if I'm on a poster because I had the same amount of chance of creating a highlight for myself. That's one of the biggest plays in each game is when a dunk happens. And that's why they've implemented the no dunk rule off of Marcus Morris Sr. And that's why Jared Allen was seen screaming and congratulating his teammates for getting a technical foul for a 3-second call a couple games ago.
He's
The
been
fact
doing
that
that for years.
yeah, yeah. And now he's starting to catch steam and catch up with all the other teammates as well because he's led the way and not allowed things to compound. And I think that's a mental growth that Jared has had this season. And I think it's rubbing off on Donovan Mitchell, who's talked about Jared's growth as well.
I want to go back to Donovan too, just for a second, because I think this is important when it comes to him. I asked him specifically because I know that he is hard on himself. I know that he's always his own worst critic, and there were times throughout the game against Phoenix where Donovan missed a shot that he thought he should have made, or Donovan couldn't make a movement that he thought he should have been able to make. He couldn't get by a guy and get a clean look at the basket. And what in the past has been a driving layup or a whirling finish around the rim turned into like a leaner or a floater or something along those lines because he just didn't have the explosiveness. He didn't have the lift. He didn't have the stop and start. He didn't have the speed and the quickness and the agility and stuff like that. So he is definitely fighting through it still. He can't go full speed in terms of breakaways. You know, he had that steal where he got grabbed immediately, but he just didn't have that push off ability, even when it came to trying to chase a guy down from behind on a few instances on the defensive end of the floor. You could tell that he was trying to go, full speed, and his body just wouldn't let him. His leg was kind of like dragging behind him. So I noticed moments throughout the course of the game against Phoenix where he would slap himself on the leg or he would smack his hands together to try and get himself going, but also express frustration at the same time. So I asked him, I said, why is it so difficult for you to give yourself grace or something along those lines? I don't remember exactly how I phrased it, but it was something along those lines. And he gave a really good response. And it is something that he's trying to be better at because this has been a hard situation on him. The Cavs have been very, very bad and very inconsistent in the second half of the season. And a big part of that is because Donovan has only played 8 games. And in those 8 games, he has been 100% for a grand total of 0 of them. So it's not easy for one of the leaders of the team, the best player on the team, and the most important player on the team to have to sit and watch from the sidelines as the team, for the most part, struggles without him. So he's talked about how tough that has been to watch that. And he's talked about how tough it is on him that he can't be the player that he sees himself as. He can't be the player for this team that this team needs him to be a great team. So it's just about trying to be patient with this thing, not skipping steps, not getting carried away, and hoping that it gets better enough, it progresses to the point where once the Cavs get to the playoffs, Donovan can be a better version of the player that we have seen in the second half. Because here's the thing that Donovan also knows, and he has not said this publicly. I'm not putting words in his mouth, but he's smart enough to understand his importance to this team, and the numbers back it up. Everybody around this organization knows, and everybody in the NBA knows, that if Donovan Mitchell does not play like a star player, if Donovan Mitchell is not great in the playoffs, the Cavs are going to be one and done, and it's going to be an off season of more than likely organizational change. And that's a lot of pressure, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point, and I'm glad that you brought up how he was acting during the game because I definitely noticed that too, and how he would like go to the bench and was just frustrated with himself, tearing his mask off and things of that nature. And I definitely saw him pound his knee, which I don't think helped a lot, a couple of times. But he is a true competitor, and he also understands like you said how much he means to this Cavs team and how much he brings, even when he's not at 100%. But he's trying to work his way back to that. Chris, we have talked about food. We have talked about the Cavs. I don't know. Do you think we have time to talk about Batman and Marvel and DC, or you think we should save that for a separate podcast?
I think we hold on to that one. But did you see Did you see in the Plain Dealer from our primary artist, the comparison that was made was Donovan Mitchell looking like Batman? Just to
Okay.
support my own
I'm
point that
sorry.
I made.
We can't stop here now because you did
Oh,
this. You did this. This is your fault, Chris. This is your fault. Chris, I am very, very professional and protective of my image on social media because I know how big of a slippery slope it can be for a new journalist and a new beat reporter to do something silly and not be taken seriously. So I have been cautious all season long about what I post on social media and the news that I break out. But I wanted to break my shell a little bit and have some fun. And I put out a tweet talking about what we had discussed about Donovan Mitchell and Spider Man and Batman in the mask. And I said, quote, hashtag Cavs. So Chris Fedor and I debated Donovan Mitchell wearing the Dark Knight black mask and his nickname being Spider. Is it
uh,
morally correct? What do y'all think? Will the mask give Mitchell superpowers? Will he channel Kyrie Irving? Or will he just take it off during the game? The responses were he is Venom or Black Suit Spider Man. Nah, it's his Black Spider Man slash Venom era. Spider Man has a black costume too. And oh no, not the Dark Knight mask drama. Don't worry, y'all. I'm sure Mitchell will be channeling his inner superhero on the court. Hashtag Super Mitchell, hashtag Spider Man. So
that came from X.
that came from X. It came from X.
Well, that tells you all you need to know.
Oh my.
X is a gigantic cesspool that does not represent anything but the vocal minority.
I like being the vocal minority. I like having the bad takes and y'all and people having to take my side. You know what, Chris? I like being that because I know you got the grand scheme of thing takes and the takes that most people will agree with. I don't care. I'll be the bad guy. If you don't disagree with me, argue with me on subtext or on X. But I'm gonna keep standing on 10 toes, baby.
I was being sort of facetious about X, formerly Twitter, but there was something that I learned a long time ago, Ethan, and it goes back to my radio days. And for those that know, I started in radio doing full time sports talk radio about 20 years ago, and I did it for a decade. And I still do it part time. I still do it on the side. It's a lot of fun, and I love it. But one of the things that my mentor always said to me was that the callers that call into the show, the texters that text into the show, represent a small number of who's actually listening to the program. And I thought that was really, really wise because he said, did you listen to sports radio growing up? Did your dad listen to sports radio growing up? Did blah, 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 listen to sports radio growing up? And I said, yeah, like everybody around me did, and all of my friends did. And he was like, how many of them called into the radio show? How many of them texted into the radio show? How many of them were interacting with you on X, formerly Twitter, as they were listening to that radio show? And I said, that's very, very interesting. Just like there are so many other people that read our stuff on cleveland.com that go beyond who interacts with you on X. You know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of being a little bit facetious when I talk down on X, formerly Twitter, but it can be like a dark, dark place. And it can be just mean people with these keyboard muscles that they're trying to flex. So, yeah, you might have a couple of people agreeing with you on X, and that's fine if you want to hang on to that. We all know that that doesn't represent all of Cavs fans. We know that that doesn't represent all of the people that listen to this podcast or read our stuff on cleveland.com. And I would venture a guess that those people probably side with me. Just a guess.
I'm gonna take my wins where I can get them, Chris. Okay,
I
I'm gonna
hear
take
you.
where I can get them because
I
I'm
hear
not even
you.
gonna lie to you. I oftentimes forget that people actually listen or read my stuff. Like every time somebody is like, "Oh, I listened to the podcast today," I was like, "Which one?" They're like, "Yours." I'm like, "Oh." And the first thing that comes out of my mouth is thanks for listening, not what intrigued you to listen. Thanks
That's
for
hilarious.
listening. Campy Russell came up to me when I was heading down to the locker room one day and he was passing by doing his stuff for Bali and He was like, "You're Ethan, right?" I was like, "I have never talked to you before in my entire life. How do you know my name?" And he goes, "You write for cleveland.com." And I was like, "Yes." Again, how do you know who I am? Campy, he was like, "I read your stuff." I was like, "Read what stuff? I don't write." Oh, yes, I do. And it is such a like surprising thing for me because I'm like, I know that I write and I publish stuff on cleveland.com and I write and I work on stuff for the podcast all the time and a lot of the effort that goes in. And I'm like, all right, I press publish and I forget about it. Like, I'm done. Got to move on to the next day. And that's the rush of doing the podcast 5 days a week. So it's interesting to see when people actually like come up to me and are like, "Oh, yeah, I read your stuff. Oh, yeah, I listened to the podcast." And I'm like, "You're going to have to remind me. I wrote 5 articles yesterday. I don't know what you're talking about." It's a grind, man. But Chris, I think that'll wrap up today's episode unless you got something else you want to talk about.
Nope, nothing else that I want to talk about. I'm all good.
All right. But until next time, that'll wrap up today's episode of the Wine and Gold Talk podcast. But remember to become a Cavs insider and interact with Chris and me by subscribing to Subtext. Sign up for a 14-day free trial or visit cleveland.com/Cavs and click on the blue bar at the top of the page. If you don't like it, that's fine. All you have to do is text the word STOP. It's easy, but we can tell you that the people who sign up stick around because this is the best way to get insider coverage on the Cavs from me and Chris. This isn't just our podcast, it's your podcast. And the only way to have your voice heard is through Subtext. Y'all be safe. We out.